Have you ever felt that the more you try to get closer to someone, the more they seem to pull away? You send thoughtful messages. You make time for her. You show genuine interest. Yet she becomes distant. She takes longer to reply. She seems less engaged. It's confusing, isn't it? What if the key isn't in doing more, but in doing less? The paradox of presence. Imagine you're holding a butterfly. If you grip it too tightly, it gets hurt. If you open your hand, it might choose to stay. Relationships can be similar. When you're always available, always present, your presence becomes expected. But when you give space, your presence becomes valued. The Stoic perspective. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control and let go of what we can't. You can't control her feelings or actions, but you can control yours. By stepping back and focusing on your own life, you create space. This space isn't about playing games. It's about living authentically. The power of absence. When you're not always there, she notices. She wonders what you're doing. She thinks about you. She misses you. Your absence creates curiosity. Curiosity leads to interest. Interest leads to attraction. Living fully. Being unavailable doesn't mean ignoring her. It means you're engaged in your own life. You're pursuing your goals. You're spending time with friends. You're growing as a person. This makes you more attractive. Not because you're trying to be, but because you're genuinely living. The beginning of a new approach. This is just the start. In the pages to come, we'll explore how to build genuine confidence from within, understand the principle of scarcity and its role in attraction, master your emotions to project strength and stability, create a life of purpose that naturally draws others in. But it all begins here, by understanding the hidden power of being unavailable. Why chasing makes you lose her respect. Let's be honest. Most guys are taught from a young age to chase what they want. Chase your dreams. Chase success. And when it comes to women, chase her heart. It sounds good at first. Be kind. Show interest. Make an effort. But there's a silent danger most men don't see. The more you chase, the more she pulls away. When you chase, you give away power. Think of it like this. If someone keeps knocking on your door every hour, you stop feeling curious about them. You start feeling annoyed. You start feeling like you're in control. And they're begging. That's how chasing works. The more you try to prove yourself to her, the more she sees you as someone who's trying too hard. And effort that feels needy is not attractive. Respect comes from self-control, not desperation. A woman doesn't lose interest because you're not nice. She loses interest because you're too available. When a man throws all his energy into her, he leaves nothing for himself. That's when she starts to feel like she's above him. And attraction doesn't grow from a place of imbalance. It grows from respect. Real masculine energy is calm and collected. A man who values himself doesn't chase. He chooses. He observes. He decides who gets access to his time. And because he's not constantly trying to prove his worth, people, especially women, start to respect him more. Respect comes before love. Without it, love fades fast. Let her wonder, not because of a game, but because you're focused. When you stop chasing, something amazing happens. She starts wondering what you're doing. She starts thinking about you more. Not because you're ignoring her, but because you're no longer begging for her time. You're focused. You're grounded. You're living with purpose. The shift starts with you. You don't need to become cold or mean. You just need to become centered. Stop asking, how do I make her like me? Start asking, do I like the man I'm becoming? Because when you become a man who respects himself, she won't be able to help but notice. Why being busy builds mystery and desire. Here's something most men don't understand. Women are drawn to mystery, not confusion, not mixed signals, but genuine mystery that comes from a man who's busy building something bigger than just a romance. Let's break this down. When you're always around, there's nothing to discover. If you text her every morning, check in every afternoon, and ask to see her every weekend, you become predictable. And what's predictable is often taken for granted. Now think of a man who's not always available. Not because he's playing games, but because his life is full. He's got goals. He's working on his body. He's focused on his mission. That man doesn't have to say, I'm valuable. She feels it. Absence isn't about being cold. It's about being present somewhere else. Most people think that if you're not with her, you're ignoring her. That's wrong. When you're not with her, you're investing in something greater. Your growth, your peace, your path. Women feel that energy. They know when a man's life is bigger than just chasing them, and it's deeply attractive. Mystery creates questions. Questions spark interest. She starts wondering, why isn't he always texting me? What's he up to today? Why do I keep thinking about him? And that's the spark. Because the moment you take up mental space in her mind, without trying, you're no longer just another guy. You've become a presence. One she wants to understand. One she wants to be part of. You don't chase her attention. You invite her into your world. Your job isn't to be her entertainment. Your job is to build a life so rich that she wants to join it. You don't do this by explaining your worth. You show your worth by how you live. And when she sees you living without needing her, she'll want you more, not less. Give her the gift of missing you. You don't need to disappear. Just don't always be there. Let her miss your voice. Let her think about your presence. Let her wonder what it feels like to be close to you again. Because in that silence, something powerful grows. Desire. Why peaceful men are more powerful than loud ones. Let's talk about something most men overlook. Peace. Not weakness. Not passiveness. But deep, calm inner peace. The kind of peace that comes from a man who doesn't need to prove anything. The kind of peace that speaks louder than any words. Most guys think they need to impress her. They talk too much. They brag. They show off what they own. They feel pressure to say the right thing. But here's the truth. Women feel more safe and drawn to men who don't need to say much. Why? Because calmness is rare. In a noisy world, a man who doesn't need attention stands out. Real strength is quiet. Think of the strongest men you've seen. They're not always shouting. They don't run around chasing approval. They walk slow. They breathe deep. They look people in the eye without blinking. That kind of energy, it makes people pause, including women. It makes her feel something deeper than attraction. It makes her feel trust. Calmness isn't about being cold. It's about being in control. When things go wrong, do you panic? When she tests you, do you argue? When she pulls away, do you chase? If you do, she feels your fear. But when you're calm, no matter what, you become a rock. And that's rare. Women don't want a man who controls everything. They want a man who can control himself. A peaceful man is a focused man. You can't be peaceful if your life is chaotic. You can't be peaceful if your mind is always chasing her. Peace comes from knowing what you're doing with your life. It comes from waking up with purpose, choosing who to give your energy to, and being okay with silence. That stillness makes you powerful because you're not reacting, you're leading. And that makes her chase you. A man who's peaceful isn't desperate. He's full. He doesn't need. He chooses. And when she senses that, she starts to move toward him. Not because he asked, not because he begged, but because he became the calm in her storm. How silence speaks louder than words. Let's talk about silence. Not awkward silence, but powerful silence. The kind of silence that makes people wonder what you're thinking. The kind of silence that pulls her in without saying a single word. Why talking too much can hurt you. A lot of guys think they need to fill every moment with words. They're afraid of silence. They think if they stop talking, she'll lose interest. But here's what they don't know. The more you speak, the more you reveal. The more you reveal, the more you risk sounding unsure. Sometimes, silence is stronger than any clever line. Because silence makes her think. And when she's thinking, she's feeling. And when she's feeling, she's getting pulled closer. Silence creates mystery. If she always knows where you stand, if she always hears your thoughts the second you have them, there's nothing left for her to figure out. And when there's nothing to figure out, there's nothing to chase. But a man who holds back a little, who isn't always quick to speak, who listens more than he talks, he becomes mysterious, not because he's playing games, but because he doesn't feel the need to explain himself. She starts to lean in. A quiet man doesn't beg for attention. He lets his energy speak. He doesn't overshare. He doesn't try to convince her. He just sits there, calm, focused, still. And in that stillness, she starts to feel curiosity. She starts to wonder, what's he thinking? Why isn't he talking so much? What does he know that I don't? And that curiosity turns into attraction. Quiet men seem stronger. Loud men are often insecure. They try to cover up fear with noise. But a quiet man, he feels like he knows something you don't. And women notice that. She starts to respect your space. She starts to value your words because you don't give them away so easily. Your silence becomes power, and that power draws her in. Let her chase the sound of your voice. Instead of talking to keep her close, let your silence create the space for her to come closer. Let her be the one to ask questions. Let her be the one trying to open you up. Because when she's chasing your words, she's chasing you. How high standards make you unforgettable. Let's talk about something that most men are afraid to show. Standards. Not just any standards. High standards. Not just about women, but about life. About how you live, what you accept, and what you walk away from. Most men think having high standards will push people away. But here's the truth. Women chase men who don't accept just anything. Why being easy to please is a trap. When a man has no standards, he becomes forgettable. If you're always saying yes, if you always agree, always go along, always accept poor behavior, she sees you as someone who doesn't value himself. It doesn't make her feel lucky to be with you. It makes her feel like you're lucky to have her. But a man with high standards, he makes her want to rise up. Not because he demands it, but because his life shows it. She feels your boundaries without you saying them. A man with strong standards doesn't have to talk about them. They show up in how he lives. He doesn't need to argue. He doesn't need to threaten. He just chooses what he allows and what he doesn't. If she's late and he values time, he doesn't get mad. He simply doesn't wait around next time. If she brings drama and he values peace, he doesn't fight. He simply removes himself from the storm. She notices, and the more he holds his standards, the more she wants to meet them. You become rare. Most guys lower their standards to keep a girl, but a high-value man raises his standards to protect his peace. He doesn't beg for loyalty. He expects it, because he gives it. He doesn't chase someone who's inconsistent. He steps back and lets that person show who they really are. This makes him rare, and rare always means valuable. She starts to qualify herself. Something powerful happens when you hold strong standards. She starts to wonder if she measures up to you. She starts to think about what you like, what you accept, what you won't tolerate. She begins to step into her best self, not because you pushed her, but because she feels like she has something worth earning. You didn't say a word. You just lived your truth, and that truth spoke louder than anything else. The strength of staying silent when it matters most Here's something most people will never tell you. Silence is louder than words, especially when you're a man, especially when emotions are high, especially when she expects a reaction and you give her stillness instead. There is deep power in knowing when not to speak. Most men talk too much, too soon. When something feels off, most guys jump into fixing mode. They explain themselves. They defend their actions. They try to say the right thing to fix how she feels. But that makes things worse. It shows you're uncomfortable. It shows you need her approval. Women don't want a man who reacts like a boy. They want a man who stands like a rock. And sometimes that rock says nothing. The calmness that creates mystery. When you're silent, you create mystery. She starts wondering what you're thinking. She starts wondering how you feel. She starts chasing the clarity you're not handing to her. Not because you're trying to confuse her, but because you're focused, grounded, calm. You're not rushing to fix something that isn't even broken. You're letting the moment breathe. And in that quiet, she starts to reflect. That reflection leads her back to you. Your peace can't be touched. Silence also shows emotional control. When she gets upset and you stay calm, you're showing her, I don't lose myself just because you did. That kind of presence is rare. Most men get pulled in, raise their voice, try to match her heat. But a man who stays cool while the world heats up, he becomes unforgettable. She might not admit it, but deep down, she respects it. She might not say it, but she feels safer around it. Because that silence, it says everything about your power. Don't explain, just live. A man who's always explaining is a man who doubts himself. But a man who knows who he is, he lets his actions speak. He walks away from drama. He doesn't argue with disrespect. He doesn't chase confusion. He stays quiet and moves with purpose. And that quiet confidence, it draws her in without a word. When you're busy winning, she feels it without you saying a word. Here's a truth most men don't realize. A man who's deeply focused on his own goals becomes magnetic. Not because he's trying to impress anyone, not because he's playing games, but because he's locked in on himself. That kind of focus, it's rare, it's powerful, and she feels it without you ever having to say a word. Purpose makes you unavailable, and that's a good thing. When you're waking up early, grinding at your work, building your body or mastering your craft, you don't have time to text her all day. You don't need to tell her, I'm busy. She can already sense it. Your life moves forward with or without her, and that quiet urgency, it sends a message. It says, I don't wait around. I building. I grow. I lead my own life. You're not rude. You're just driven. And that drive is more attractive than any compliment or gift you could give her. Your energy speaks louder than words. A man who's busy with his mission carries a different energy. He doesn't ask for attention. He doesn't beg for time. He doesn't worry about being liked, because he's already fulfilled. And that fulfillment, changes how he talks, walks, and moves. Even when you're in the room with her, your mind is building. You're thinking about the next goal, the next step, the next level. That makes her stop and look at you differently. Not as a man who needs her, but as a man she wants to keep up with. You don't try to impress. You just keep winning. The world is full of men trying to prove themselves, trying to be flashy, trying to say the perfect things. But you don't talk about your dreams. You build them. And that makes you different. She starts wondering, where is his attention today? Why is he so quiet, but so grounded? Why do I want to be around him more? It's not because you chased her. It's because you chased your calling. And every time she thinks of you, she doesn't see a man waiting. She sees a man winning. Whoa. The calm man controls the connection. Here's something most guys don't see. It's not the loudest man who leads. It's the calmest one. The man who keeps his cool, even when others are emotional. The one who doesn't panic when a woman pulls away. The one who doesn't react to every mood, text, or test. That man, he controls the connection without ever forcing anything. Stillness is power in a world full of noise. Most men rush to fix, rush to please, rush to explain themselves. But a calm man waits. He listens. He lets things play out. He's not cold. He's just sure of himself. And that makes her question, why isn't he reacting? Why does he feel so steady when I'm all over the place? That stillness, it's not emptiness, it's power. Emotions are fire. You can't let them burn you. A woman might test your calm. She may push your buttons, not out of hate, but to see what you're made of. It's not about drama. It's about strength. If you react fast, raise your voice, or chase her mood, she sees a man who's controlled by emotions. But if you stay grounded, if your tone stays firm, your breathing stays slow, and your presence stays rooted, she sees something else. She sees safety. She sees leadership. She sees a man who doesn't break under pressure. That's rare. That's attractive. Be the mountain, not the wind. She doesn't need a man who moves with every breeze. She needs a mountain, strong, silent, unmoved. The more calm you become, the more influence you gain. And here's the secret. The man who can lead himself emotionally will always lead the connection. She feels secure. She feels respect. She feels desire without you trying, all because you mastered the one thing that most men ignore: emotional self-control. The man who walks alone attracts many. Here's something most men never learn. A man who walks alone on purpose is never truly alone. You see, most guys live in fear of being by themselves. They chase women to avoid silence. They beg for attention just to feel important. They settle for anything just so they don't feel nothing. But here's the truth. The man who chooses solitude gains power. silence builds something no one can give you. When you're alone, something strange happens. You begin to hear yourself. You hear your own voice, not hers, not theirs. You feel your own rhythm. You learn your own strength. No one's clapping. No one's watching. But you keep moving anyway. And that's when the world starts to notice. Women feel when a man doesn't need their presence. She may not say it, but she feels it. A man who's comfortable without her is more powerful than the one who chases her. She starts to wonder, why doesn't he need me around all the time? Why does he seem more alive when he's alone? Why do I miss him when he's not even trying to be missed? It's not a trick. It's not a tactic. It's truth. When you live your life fully, with or without her, she wants to be part of it. Your energy changes everything. When you're at peace alone, your energy changes. You walk different. You talk different. You look at the world with no rush, no fear, no need to prove. You don't try to impress. You just express. And guess what happens? People are drawn in. Women are curious. They feel your calm, your depth, your mystery. Not because you forced it, but because you earned it through your time alone. Be the man she wants to chase. Not because you played games. Not because you made her jealous. But because you made yourself whole. You became the man who didn't chase the world. You became the man the world chased. And that, brother, is the hidden power of being unavailable.